This is the wire I use. This is 28 gauge. I prefer this over magnet wire because magnet wire is really tough to get the insulation off of. Even on this, I have to heat up my soldering iron and use my soldering iron to strip the ends because there's nothing else that I can use to strip the ends. And what I do is I figure out where it's going to go and I preform the wire, how it's going to go, and then cut it off so it goes through the table okay. For these, and then just solder them in the top. For these connections, I take the wire, and I'll just use a sample piece of wire I have here, like this, and I bend it 90 degrees, so I'll bend the wire like this, and then back on itself, so I create a little loop. That looks like that. And then with that little loop, I'll bare that wire. I use my soldering iron on it, and then it gets soldered right down to the connector there. And the way I do that, we'll just, is you can, I should have one around here. Oh, here's one. So here's one I made just to turn on a light. So if I unplug my test thing and just plug this in, you'll see there's the light. And what you can see is, hopefully, a solder blob there and a solder blob there. So there are two solder blobs that I put on the end, not here, but just there. And then I just hold the wire close to it, press the wire in while I'm heating it with the soldering iron. So it's like tinning. You get it all set up ready to go, and then you heat up the solder, then you put the wire in and press it down. And that creates a real good contact. In fact, I'll show you what I do here, because I want one more strip for some more testing. So we'll grab just a piece. This is different wire, but it's just here. I want a piece about that long. I just turned on my soldering iron. Well, I could have used this, I guess, anyway. We'll separate the wire at the end. Now this, I can use it's 24 gauge. Yep. Use either the 24 or the 22 gauge wire stripper on it. You can see that strips just a little bit of wire. I want a little more than that because this insulation is pretty thick. And then the other end I'm just going to tin so I can touch it to some areas. So I'll go ahead here. Separate that a little more. Okay, this I'm going to twist together because I'm going to solder that. This I'm going to twist. Okay, now I usually of an old 1x2, a little short piece that I use for various projects, and that's what we'll use here. So let's cut a strip here. There we go, just like that. Try and uncurve it a bit. And then what we do is just put it down, grab the soldering iron, figure out where I put my solder, touch to one of the copper areas, get it warm, get a nice little solder block there. There, those two done. Now, the other thing I wanted to do here was to tin these ends. So let's tinning like this lets you apply the heat at this point to make sure that the solder is bonded well to the wire. And with the solder bonded well to the wire, then all you have to do is melt the solder here and the solder on the lights, and they go together quite well. Now I don't do that with this wire because it's so thin already, it's easy enough to heat up, but this one not as much. So that's a little longer than I'd like, so I'm just going to cut that back a little. And then we go up to here and there's a plus mark, so take the red wire, heat the solder, introduce the wire, heat it all, make sure the solder covers the wire, burn your finger, or of course you could, use like tweezers or something to do this. Sometimes the hardest thing is trying to get this into place. Need some weight on it. There. And you want to see if that worked or not. We'll go ahead and plug in this guy again. This goes to red. This goes to black. You see? Fine. Now I do have another tester. If I'm just testing single LEDs, this of course has a LED, resistor LED, and these are in series, so I don't know what size that resistor is, but I do have a separate tester for single LEDs, which I can show you right here. And this is one that I use if I'm going to test LEDs, or I'm doing, for example, in locos. And this just uses a little coin cell battery, CR2032 I think. Has a little on-off switch. And so I can hook it up same way positive, and then turn it on. And yeah, there's not enough power in it at 3 volts to light anything, so I may be able to show you. Is if I touch an individual LED solder points, there, so you can see an individual LED comes on. If I do that with 12 volts, that'll fry instantly. Okay. Now I'm going to show you what I wanted to kind of test to give you an idea of things you can do on your layout. I'm just going to put this away. Okay, you may be able to see a train down there. Anyway, this is a normal DCC layout, 14 point whatever volts. But if I hold this guy down here, you can see the LEDs light up. And I don't think they blink on the camera at all. So this is just 12 volt LEDs. You can drive off of your DCC power. I haven't tried this for days and days and days to see if there's a burnout issue, but I may find out. Anyway, it was just a test I wanted to do.